Chris Myers. I'm the Dean of Students, the Assistant Dean for Student Affairs at Vanderbilt Law School, and it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this wonderful collaboration that is serving both as one of our Dean's lectures on race and discrimination and also the keynote for Black History Month. We are so lucky at Vanderbilt Law School to consistently have a fantastic Black Law Students Association, and it's one of my honors to serve as BALSA's advisor and to work with them on a regular basis. I would like to invite up one of the two people who is responsible for such fantastic programming during this Black History Month, BALSA's Black History Month co-chair, Maya Thomas. Please give her a warm welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for coming. My name is Maya Thomas, and I am one of the BALSA Black History Month co-chairs, along with my esteemed co-chair, Darian Brown. We want to welcome you to the Dean's Lecture Series on Race and Discrimination and the BALSA Black History Month Keynote Address. The theme of this year's Black History Month programming is From Resilience to Resistance. Our programming this month has been centered around reframing the narrative of the Black experience from one solely rooted in enduring adversity to one of empowerment, opposition, and change. We hope to see you at some of our other wonderful programming, including a Q&A with Judge Waverly Crenshaw, another esteemed member of Vanderbilt Law Class of '94. On Thursday and Blackacre on Friday. And with that, I will turn it over to Jonna Perry to introduce our keynote speaker, Judge Byrdsong. Thank you, Maya. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jonna Perry. I am president of our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council here at Vanderbilt Law School, and I'm so excited to introduce Judge Byrdsong. And Judge Byrdsong, just so you know, the room has grown to about 100 people, so there are about 100 people in the room. I'll change the camera in a bit, but we are so excited to have you here. So let me go ahead and do his introduction, and then you don't have to hear from me any longer. So we have today the Honorable Rupert A. Byrdsong. He was appointed to the Los Angeles Superior Court on June 18th, 2014 by Governor Jerry Brown. He presently sits in Department 28 in the Stanley Mosque Courthouse in downtown Los Angeles, wherein he handles an unlimited jurisdiction individual court calendar with an inventory of over 700 cases. Prior to coming to Mosque, Judge Byrdsong was the first African-American to have an unlimited civil trials assignment at the Chatsworth Courthouse. He was also the first African-American assigned to the complex civil department, wherein he handled and coordinated all of the asbestos cases in Los Angeles County. Judge Byrdsong began his legal career with Ivie McNeil Wyatt. As a law clerk in 1994, he became an associate in 1995 and became a partner in 2001. Judge Byrdsong received his undergraduate degree in political science with honors from Morehouse College in 1991. He graduated magna cum laude, made the National Dean's List, and earned membership into Phi Beta Kappa. Judge Byrdsong received his Doctor of Jurisprudence from Vanderbilt University Law School in 1994. Judge Byrdsong is active with the John M. Langston Bar Association, the California Association of Black Lawyers, the California Association of Black Lawyers Judicial Council, the LA California Bar Association's Labor and Employment Executive and Saturday Seminar Committees, and a founding member of the Association of African American California Judicial Officers. He served on the executive committee of the Labor and Employment section for the State Bar of California from 2003 to 2007. Judge Byrdsong is the immediate past president of the California Judges Association, wherein he led a campaign to modify the judges' pension plan, providing more equitable retirement options. Prior to his election as president, he served as vice president of the California Judges Association and co-chair of the task force on the elimination of bias and inequality in the justice system. Judge Byrdsong frequently lectures on legal issues and trial skills with notable groups such as the College of Labor and Employment Lawyers, the Rudder Group, Consumer Attorneys Association of Los Angeles, California Employment Lawyers Association, and the Association of Southern California Defense Council. Judge Byrdsong is currently an adjunct professor at the University of West Los Angeles, where he teaches pretrial litigation procedure. He has also served on the faculty for the Trial Advocacy Workshop at Harvard Law School. Judge Byrdsong volunteers his time mentoring young lawyers and speaks to students in high schools, colleges, and law schools throughout Los Angeles and virtually all over the country. He also volunteers his time to interview prospective students for Vanderbilt University Law School. Because of his work and contributions to the community, Judge Byrdsong was recognized in Ebony Magazine's Power 100 for 2018. Judge Byrdsong was recognized as a proven achiever for Black History Month in 2019 by the radio station KJLH. In 2020, he was recognized by the Western region of the National Black Law Students Association as Judge of the Year. And in 2022, he received the Judicial Excellence Award from the California Association of Black Lawyers Judicial Council. And so with that being said, Judge Byrdsong, we thank you so much for being here, and take it away. The floor is yours.
Thanks for that gracious introduction. Everybody, I want you to strap in. In the opinion of the court, the legislation and histories of the times and the language used in the Declaration of Independence show that neither the class of persons who had been imported as slaves, nor their descendants, whether they had become free or not, were then acknowledged as part of the people, nor intended to be included in the general words used in that memorable instrument. It is difficult at this day to realize the state of public opinion in relation to that unfortunate race which prevailed in the civilized and enlightened portions of the world at the time of the Declaration of Independence and when the Constitution of the United States was framed and adopted. But the public history of every European nation displays it in a manner too plain to be mistaken. They had, for more than a century before, been regarded as beings of an inferior order and altogether unfit to associate with the white race, either in social or political relations, and so far inferior that they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect, and that the Negro might justly and lawfully be reduced to slavery for his benefit. He was bought and sold and treated as an ordinary article of merchandise and traffic whenever a profit could be made by it. This opinion was at that time fixed and universal in the civilized portion of the white race. It was regarded as an axiom in morals as well as in politics, which no one thought of disputing or supposed to be open to dispute. And men in every grade and position in society daily and habitually acted upon it in their private pursuits, as well as in matters of public concern, without doubting for a moment the correctness of this opinion. These are the words of a Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. If a person who is at the highest court level, supposedly educated, with a law degree, licensed to practice, had these views about Black people, can you imagine those who were not as educated, what they thought? That's the Dred Scott decision, everybody. And we always encourage people to look at the historical documents of this country when we try to understand why we are where we are today, why people have these perspectives that we have today. So glad that you have me here. There's a lot to unpack in this title, from resilience to resistance, so much to unpack, and hopefully we'll be able to touch on a few notes and have a little conversation. And I invite all types of questions. I'm going to try to make my remarks straightforward, and then we can have more of a conversation. I want to thank first Janet Perry, my Spelman sister, who invited me to come speak to you. For those of you who don't know or appreciate, Robert Belton, the first Black, you can't see this picture because of my backdrop, the first Black professor to be fully tenured at the law school. He was my greatest mentor. I had the fortune to be his research assistant while I was at Vanderbilt from 91 to 94. And absolutely, I stand on his shoulders. So the first thing I want to share with you, for those of you who kind of follow me on Facebook, I do this thing during Black History Month where I put up different types of posts talking about attributes. And I think that this post that I put up yesterday is appropriate for me to read into the record, if you will, for this presentation. It goes something like this. February is Black History Month, and Black history is indeed American history. Brace yourself now. And I always do this from the first person perspective. I represent the counter viewpoints of a complex social and historical mentality. A mentality established by practice and written law in Dred Scott, I just read into your hearing, Dred Scott v. Sanford. The United States Supreme Court articulated that Black people were inferior beings and not even considered citizens of this nation. Thousands of Blacks, as well as whites who helped Blacks, were lynched over the years with impunity. No arrest, no indictments, no punishments for brutal and outright murder. Postcards were made from photographing these events as if people were attending the carnival. You can do that right now. You can Google lynching postcards and see these images that happen in this nation. In 2013, after George Zimmerman was acquitted of murdering an unarmed Trayvon Martin, my formal name was born. But as stated above, I had been around for many years. I developed a national presence when Emmett Till was 14 years old and was tortured and brutally murdered in 1955. After a 5-day trial, wherein the assailants were positively identified as abducting Emmett from his uncle Mose Wright's house, the jury acquitted them in 67 minutes. In 1991, I was alive and well when an unarmed 15-year-old Latasha Harlins was killed when she was shot in the back of her head by a store owner who believed she was stealing a bottle of orange juice. Her shooter was only fined $500 and sentenced to 5 years of probation and 400 hours of community service, but no prison time for that crime. Also in 1991, the beating of an unarmed Rodney King was captured on videotape, where he sustained the following injuries: a broken right leg, his face badly cut and swollen, bruises on his body, and a burn area to his chest when he had been bolted by a stun gun. In spite of the video evidence of the encounter, the officers were acquitted on charges of using excessive force. As recent as May 25, 2020, Amy Cooper had no problems being videotaped saying that she would make a false 911 report that Christian Cooper, a Black man, was threatening her because he asked her to keep her dog on the leash. She fervently believed and understood that her false allegation would produce negative consequences for this man, irrespective of whether he had actually committed any crime. On the same day, the world witnessed George Floyd, unarmed, handcuffed, detained, and held down to the ground under the knee of a police officer until he died. In spite of his pleas that he could not breathe, the brutality continued and no one intervened. I am not a terrorist group, nor a hate group. I merely want to state that under certain circumstances, in particular when unarmed and not posing a threat, Black people should not be killed. And when they are killed, there must be some criminal consequence. The debate has been deliberately manipulated and redirected that Black people should not place themselves in positions where they will confront law enforcement and they should just comply with orders. Tell that to Philando Castile or Tamir Rice or Breonna Taylor. Moreover, Trayvon and Letitia were not killed by law enforcement, so please hear what I'm saying. You notice no one goes to a breast cancer awareness rally to protest and advance all cancer awareness. Can you imagine when the shepherd leaves the 99 sheep to find the one lost one, and the 99 start complaining, all sheep matter? There is a dark problem in this country, still acknowledging the value of the life of a Black person. And we heard what the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court said, basically codified my substandard status. My name is Black Lives Matter. That's a post that I put on my Facebook. And I know some people are saying, you must be crazy to put something like that on social media. I've just stated some facts. Everything that I mentioned in that post is factual, absolutely factual. So it's not giving a legal opinion. It's not commenting on a current pending case. It's factual. It's history. It's an ugly history. It's a scary history. It's a history that we are finding people are trying to erase and to eliminate. So where do we go from here? Where do we start? I simply say we have to start from a sense of not having fear. Fear is really the element that prevents us from going forward. And in fact, fear is what has those who are not in the minority wanting to stop minorities from advancing. You realize that the goal of diversity and inclusivity is not to replace white people with people of color. That's not the goal. You do appreciate that, right? The goal is to bring everybody together. I'm not trying to replace any white perspective. I just want that white perspective to have my Black perspective added to that. And then when you have the two perspectives together, guess what? We have a better product. We have a better vetted situation. It's more open. It probably will work out all of the kinks because, you know, when they say 2 minds are better than one, well, guess what? 100 minds are better than one. 100 perspectives are better than one perspective. So when we're able to do that, when people understand that when we want inclusivity, we want more people to the table, not subplacing, not substituting, then we're going to grow. The people who are resisting diversity and inclusivity is because their voices aren't secure. It's because they, somewhere in the back of their mind, they believe and know that I got here because of a privilege and I didn't earn it, and I want to hold on to it. And so I want to make sure that I can not level the playing field. The things that we're seeing throughout this country about eradicating critical race theory, voter suppression initiatives, the nonsense is happening in Georgia about making it a crime to give a person a glass of water while they're waiting in line to vote. How are you going to criminalize that? What is that designed to do? That's obviously designed to keep people from voting. Why? Because they don't want to lose their power because they haven't evolved to deal with the constituency. They're only thinking about themselves. So what are you saying, Rupert? What are you telling us today, you know, in this movement from resilience to resistance? You know, if people were to say things like what they're doing in Black Lives Matter, back in the day, they would have been hanging from a tree. Now you have the opportunity to speak out and you won't get, well, you may not get killed, but you may get ostracized. So that's why we have to deal with this fear factor, right? Because fear fear doesn't do anything but just stifle you, stifle your growth, and stifle your ability to move forward, to go to the next level. So let me soften this up a little bit. So right now I am in an independent calendar assignment where I do civil litigation. Unlimited means there has to be controversy of more than $25,000. Because of my background in civil, I was a civil litigator before I became on the bench. So I did employment law at Ivie McNeil Wyatt, Purcell, and Diggs. I was there for 20 years before I got appointed to the bench. The bench is a very, very powerful place because we can make a difference. I know it's good when people who look like me see me up there. They feel like they have at least a more fair opportunity to be heard, a more fair opportunity to win. But the law is the law. The law is supposed to be colorblind. But in terms of looking through my lens and my perspective, I think I add value to the bench. We're talking about being diverse, being inclusive. When I was at Vanderbilt, we had a great time. I see several of my colleagues on the call. Really, really grateful to see y'all here supporting this event, and really, really blown away to see the Waxters. So they just messed me up because Ms. Waxter was my geometry teacher in high school, and I know her husband John grew up in the same town that my father did. So I'm just very, very blessed to see you guys, and blessed to see my mom here as well. My mother is certainly one of my best and most powerful mentors, also a product of a historically Black college. She went to Tougaloo, and I certainly owe so much to her. Let me share with you, and I may have shared this with other classes. Don't let your grades define you. I'm gonna tell you, this is a true story. I'm gonna tell you my story. So we have it's still called the Wailing Wall, where you go up and you see your grades, you see your number and you see your grade, nobody else sees it. Like, oh gosh, you see what happened. So when I went to the Wailing Wall my first year, I just go through, I see, my grades. And in Property 1, I had the single lowest grade in the class. It was a C minus. It was one C minus out of 90 people. And I thought, wow, I'm the dumbest guy in this class. Are you kidding me? And so I thought, well, if I work like this and I get C minuses, why do I need to study at all? So next semester, I basically just took a year off and didn't study at all. And of course, all my grades were bad the second semester. And I thought, this is not working. But then I did this unpaid internship in Atlanta, and I hooked up with a guy named Clarence Johnson. He was a graduate of Clark and Temple University. I started working under him. I said, hey, look, I just want to learn, give me some assignments and let's see what happens. Started working with him, and then also the top county attorney's office, Susan Forsling. I think she became a judge later on. So I'm working with these people, and I'm just doing what I learned to do at Vanderbilt, research, writing, forget what the grade said, right? Just doing that. And then so they were telling me like, wow, I know you're just a first year student. You just completed your first year, but you're already an outstanding attorney. You already know what you're doing. So that really, really helped me and turn my perspective around. So I knew not to take any time off, but to keep working. And then so I went back, I did started working, I got good grades. And that's when I met Professor Belton. Bob was just an incredible legend. And I hope everybody on this call gets a chance to do some research and look him up and go by his portrait and try to just breathe in his essence, because he really was just a magnanimous man, and learned so much from him. See, he believed and understood what it meant to be Black in this country. He worked with the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and he set forth, various legal theories which were designed to deal with how African Americans were treated. And that's what we're working on. I also have to mention, this happened after I left, but I met this young man. He came to my office looking for a job. His name is Damon Brown. Damon came by and he showed me his resume, and I thought, hey, you went to Vanderbilt, that's cool. I'm going down, and then I see where he was Professor Belton's research assistant. I said, you work with Bob Belton? He says, yeah. So I hired you. You're hired. I hired him on the spot. What I didn't know at the time was when Damon was at Vanderbilt, he led a protest wherein at the time there were 0 Black students on any of the periodicals, the Law Review, the International Journal, whatever Vanderbilt had to as a publication, there were no Black students on any of those editorial boards. And so they raised Cain and they put on these shirts, these Black shirts with a big white 0% on it, for people to see that this is what's happening at this institution of higher learning. And it's because of that protest that they made modifications and changed the way how people can get on Law Review so that it could be more inclusive. It could be more diverse. And as I stated earlier, the importance of the diversity and inclusivity is not to just put a POC, a person of color, in a seat to warm it, to make the room look different. No, it's the perspective that that person brings to the table that helps your work product to be better. That's what we're talking about. And so Black history is American history. So every morning when people come to my court, I address them. Guess what? February is Black History Month. Does anybody appreciate what that means? Why it's significant? To counteract the negative and false narratives that Black people are inferior and Black people can't do anything. And when you see the contribution that Black people made, you understand like, oh, wait a minute. You know, these are people I like to hang out with. This building that I'm in, the Stanley Moss Courthouse, it's the largest trial court building in the nation. We have about almost 100 courtrooms in this building. This building was designed by a Black architect named Paul Revere Williams. The attorneys who come through have no idea that this building was designed by a Black man. There's another interesting fact about Paul Revere Williams. He could draw upside down. Why in the world did he have to draw upside down? He learned how to draw upside down because back in those days when he's showing his renderings, white people were uncomfortable sitting next to him side by side and talking and walking him through the drawings. So by learning how to draw upside down, he could sit across the table from the white businessmen and still draw and still do business and still make a living. These are the types of things that Black people go through and make adjustments all the time. All the time. And I'm hoping that people can appreciate that because of making those adjustments, you know, just to be a part, it's pretty tough. And so now we fast forward, we're talking about, you know, standing up and speaking out. We need allies. We need people also standing up. When you hear a joke, when people are being insensitive to people of color, people with disabilities, do you remain silent? Do you have an awkward chuckle when the joke is made and don't say anything? Basically enabling, basically co-signing, basically endorsing that negative point of view? Each of you has an opportunity to make monumental changes. Goes back to the fear factor I was talking about. Not having fear. I'm not saying you have to be outspoken and be like I'm not going to say that. Fear. You have to manage it. You have to control it. For example, I'm in my lounge here with my colleagues and people are talking about, wow, it'd be really, really great to be an ambassador, you know, under the Trump administration. You get to travel, we get to have a budget, you know, go all over the world. And one of my colleagues said, yeah, but you might end up going to Belize and getting kidnapped. And I just stopped and, What are you talking about? Kidnapped? Yeah, you might get kidnapped. And you're basing that on what? Have you ever been to Belize? No. So is that fair for you to criticize him like that? I've been to Belize. One of my best friends is from Belize. We spent his 50th birthday there. We had an awesome time. We walked around the city. We hung out on the beach. It's a beautiful country. So what are you talking about? Oh, well, maybe I should do something. We say, yeah, maybe you should. Courage. Speak up. You hear something, you say something. That's how we continue to grow. That's how we continue to evolve. Somebody needs to mute yourself because I'm not ready for questions yet, almost. So I'm gonna tell one more story and then I am gonna open up for questions. So I'm at the top of my food chain, right? Judge is at the top of the legal profession. What I say goes. What I say is literally and proverbially the law, right, in my courtroom. I had a bench trial once, breach of contract, pretty standard pedestrian, two businesses fighting. The least diverse trial I've ever had as a lawyer or a judge. The owner of the company was a white male. He's from Texas, loved his accent, and he loved the fact that I was originally from Tennessee. So we actually got along really, really well. And he ran this company with his son. And he was represented by two white male attorneys. The defendant company was also owned by a white male, and he had two white males representing him. So at the counsel's table is all these, that's 7 white males at counsel table. To my left was the court reporter, who also happened to be a white male. We do the trial. I'm the only person of color in the room. Take that back. My courtroom assistant is also Black. We do the trial. At the end of the trial, the court reporter tells me, Judge Byrdsong, I really love the way you run your court. I really love the way how you conduct your trials. It was a pleasure and honor. I really look forward to coming back to visit your courtroom again. I say, hey, man, I appreciate that. And you were awesome. You know, made sure that my real time was good. And we always had the transcript up and running. So thank you. And likewise, I look forward to working with you again. Fast forward about 3 weeks, across the street in our little local restaurant / watering hole. I'm going to meet a friend for lunch. I see my court reporter friend from that trial. Wave at him. He waves back. Hey, how's it going? How did that trial turn out? What he asked me. I said, oh, wow, yeah. Defendants crashed and burned. There was not going to be a waiver on the contract. And if you had to go on the terms of the contract, there was a clear breach, and they knew it. So the defendants ended up settling the case. He asked me after I said that, so what did the judge do? I said, well, I decided that the defense did not prove that the plaintiffs waived their rights under the contract. The terms and conditions were going to be litigated. There was clear breach. And since the defendant knew that there was a clear breach, they decided to settle. His response to that, no, what did the judge do? And now I'm looking at him like he's an idiot. And he's looking at me like, I'm just still looking at him like, and then about 15 seconds later, oh. He stands up, head's all in his shoulders, he kind of stumbles over. Oh, Your Honor, I'm sorry. Your Honor, I'm sorry. I said, hold on. You're not the first, and you probably won't be the last person to think that someone who looks like me could possibly be a judge. However, you probably should remember the judges that you do trials for. Probably a good idea. And then he kind of sulked back to his seat, and I just proceeded to eat my lunch. So when we had the trial, did he ever see me? Did he see me at all? Did he see the robe? Did he see the man in the robe? Did he see someone invisible in the robe? Wow, right? Wow. After one more story, then we will get to questions. So I was asked to speak, ironically, about implicit bias and how attorneys can fully monetize recovery for their victims of discrimination. Lawyers Bar, Plaintiffs Lawyers Bar, California Employment Lawyers Association. I want to say Bob was a member of the National Employment Lawyers Association, which is the national realm of that deal. So the night before, it was Thursday, they had happy hour. So you know how they have these conferences, right? They have a big conference room where they have classes and seminars, and they have breakout rooms for other seminars. Then they have all these vendors selling their wares. And this is all legal. This is a legal conference. Everybody's selling their wares, you know, accident reconstructionists and legal periodicals and insurance, actuaries, the whole 9 yards. And so I'm working that area, and literally every five steps I take, I'm accosted by lawyers, because this is an employment bar. So I did employment for 20 years. Everybody was Hey, Judge Byrdsong, I want to get a piece. So they want to talk. So we're talking, chit-chatting, how's it going? How you like the bench? Everything's great, blah, blah, blah. We miss you over actually litigating. It's all good. The next day, same area. Vendors are still set up, same area. Before my presentation on implicit bias, I just got this wild idea. I mean, literally, it just came to me in that moment. I took my suit jacket off. I traded my name tag with another colleague of mine who was also a judge. And then I put on a maroon hoodie. I placed the hoodie over my head. Didn't cover my face. This is pre-COVID, so it's not like I had a mask or anything. It was like Rupert in a hoodie. And I proceeded to walk the same area that I walked the night before, where I was overwhelmed by the interaction of people. You can already guess what happened. For the next hour and a half, I literally would engage with people I'd known for 20 years, made eye contact. They made eye contact for 1 second, but then they all averted their eyes, would not speak to me, would not talk to me. I didn't engage them. I was just looking. I'm looking at faces. I'm making eye contact. I'm looking and I'm waiting for people to say, hey, Judge Byrdsong, or whatever. And it was so revealing that they all avoided me, except for one person. And whenever I see her, I just give her a big hug. Her name was Roxanne Davis. She also does plaintiff's work. And so she looked at me and she's like, Rupert, why are you walking around with that hoodie on? And I almost started crying right there. I gave her a big hug. I said, I'll tell you later, but I appreciate that you saw me. And she didn't get it. So I continued to walk again. I'm just ignored, being ignored. It's time for the presentation, and I go into the room, but I stay in the back and I keep the hoodie on. And my friend, remember, keep this in context. The night before, I'm walking around, everybody is overwhelmingly talking to me. So my white colleague goes up on the stage, the dais, as me, with my name tag on, and they're introducing him as me with my background. Nobody says, hold on, wait. Who is this guy? That's not Rupert. Nobody says anything. It's like they're introducing him and everybody is just like, everything's normal. And then after they finished the introduction, everybody started clapping, welcome our panelists. And as they're clapping, I said, stop, wait. That's not Judge Byrdsong. Pull the hood back. I'm Judge Byrdsong. And you could hear this in the room. And people were mortified. They were embarrassed because they know they saw me, but they didn't see me. And I proceeded to talk to them about, well, no wonder you have problems with your clients and implicit bias, because guess what? You have them too. And until you start being able to look at people and see them as people versus seeing skin tone or the other indicia of the negative stereotypes, why is a hood negative? Context. Wasn't like I was in the alley at 2 a.m. holding a crowbar. This is the middle of the day in this legal conference. And I still had a suit. You can see my tie. I just put a hood on my head. You mean to tell me a hood is going to take away 20 years of our interactions? It's scary, right? It's scary to think about that. These are the stories and the types of things we talk about during Black History Month, but frankly, we talk about it at all times because it can get tiring. Wow, we're already out of time. Let's take some questions, then I'm going to do my creative piece for everybody, and then the lesson will be yours, as they say. Let's have some questions. Hi, everybody. I see Luther, I see Bridget, my class. I see my sister, Professor Susie. Hey, Susie. I'm sorry.
Hi, Judge Byrdsong.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Question.
You want to take some questions from the room to start? If you've got a mic right in the middle, then Jenny, do you want to just Welcome, and folks, and don't worry, I know we've got a bunch of people on Zoom, and we will move right to questions from that audience shortly. Maybe even quicker if nobody's brave enough to raise their hand in the room.
Judge Calloway, Judge Westbrook, good to see you guys. Judge Cotton, yes, good to see you. Frank Valentine, Nitty, what's happening? Robert Anderson, is that my Robert from high school? Good to see you. I'm sorry, be quiet, shout outs.
Hello,
Question.
Judge. My name is Sophia Howard. I graduated from Spelman in 2021, and happy Founders Day, I have to say.
Thank you.
My question is about, I guess you're talking about your experiences with colleagues and folks within the legal profession, but I'm wondering, like in the courtroom, as you're trying to think about things in like in a way that's not just the law and what the law says, but in the greater context of things, how you're able to navigate having to still follow like what your duties are as a judge, and then also like trying to be progressive in the ways in which you're thinking about the cases in a greater context.
No, that's a good question. So obviously our hands are tied as it relates to, we can only apply the facts of a particular case to the applicable law. So that's kind of, lack of a better word, that's black and white. You have facts, you have the law, you apply them, and do you have a fit? Do you have precedent that says this is what we do? Or do you have those gray areas where we can play within these boundaries and still make something happen? Ultimate end game, this is for all litigation. I'm teaching this in my class. The ultimate end game is get the case resolved. You have this notion that you're in the law to try to win. That doesn't seem to be the right perspective, because what does that actually mean? To get the case resolved sometimes means you end up paying some money. To get the case resolved, some of it means you may have to withdraw some claims. So there's no one size fits all with regard to the ultimate end game. So I can freely, and I have freely injected, why are we here? You've taken a position on this case that has only created this litigation. Have you considered taking a different position so that this different position can move you from this position of a stalemate litigation to a place of conclusion? And so I can always do that. That kind of transcends the law and the facts, and I'm able to do that. I want to say Morales definitely helped me with that in terms of having the courage and the confidence to say that without blinking. Great question.
Should we take a question from Zoom?
I'm gonna read the question. It says, what is one thing you wish you had known when you were a young Black student in our shoes at VLS? I think I shared the story about the lowest grade. And so it took me that one semester to learn that you don't take shortcuts, you don't stop working hard, you don't let the grades define you. Of course, grades are important. Of course, that's what law firms are looking at. There's supposed to be some correlation between the grade you have and your actual knowledge, but I can guarantee you those grades, your score on your bar exam, they have no reflection on what type of advocate you're going to be, how ethical you're going to be in terms of you caring about your clients versus caring about a payday. None of that can be measured through grades. That's going to be based on your upbringing, your value system, and that's what's going to be the important thing. So I think I always knew that.
No, that's fine.
So yeah, I learned that I shouldn't take breaks. I shouldn't take holidays. I should just keep working no matter what. Grades do not define you. Next question. Nichelle Holmes, can I see your hand up?
Hey, Judge.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good. It's another Spelmanite in the house.
Yeah, I was going to say, I too am a Spelman graduate. I don't have a question, but I want you to maybe kind of talk to the students about, as an African-American lawyer who experiences microaggressions and implicit bias over and over, it can be daunting. And can you just talk about what you do to kind of address your mental health? I think that's one thing for me as a an African-American woman, female lawyer that we don't talk about enough is how we address the mental health aspect of it when it just kind of compiles on a daily basis.
Oh yeah, you just brought me to another quick story. No, it's very, very important to have those allies, those people that you can talk to and have in a safe space to actually say, look, this is what's going on. Obviously, being a member of BALSA, if you're taking advantage and attending these meetings and making contacts and relationships with people in the organization, that's going to be helpful. When you get out of law school, and this is for any group, get involved in bar associations, your local bar associations, your state and regional bar associations, your national bar association. This is where you can develop all kinds of contacts and resources and relationships, people that you can rely upon, as Nichelle indicated, that when things are getting tough, you can bounce things off of. So it reminds me of the story where I was asked to speak at this law firm for Black History Month, and they didn't have any Black attorneys in the law office. I thought, how does this work, right? So I called the diversity chair and the chair of the African-American Affinity Group. So what's your demographics of Blacks? This is a law firm, 1,100 people across the nation. They had 33 Blacks in the whole firm and none in Los Angeles. And you're asking me to talk to your Los Angeles office? I walked into the foyer and it said, I'll call the firm out. I'm okay to do that. They can't do anything to me. Holland and Knight, forgive me if any of y'all have affiliation with them. Holland and Knight celebrates Black History Month, the big old beautiful banner. And then to the left in the conference room, they were eating fried chicken, collard greens, black-eyed peas, peach cobbler. Actually, the caterer was a former client of mine. Really, really good food, but this is how you celebrate Black History Month. You bring in a young Black judge, you eat some fried chicken. Are you kidding me? I got visibly upset. I was like, excuse me, I need to go to one of your conference rooms and kind of go over my notes. And it was at that time, to Nichelle's point, that I called him my buddy. He says, man, you're not gonna believe what's going on in here. So I told him, I was like, they have no Black lawyers in here. I'm celebrating Black History Month. And they eating fried chicken and collard greens. I mean, what? Are you kidding me? He says, man, Bird, he called me Bird for short. He says, man, Bird, you gotta let them have it. You gotta let them have it, man. You can't let them get away with this. This ain't right. I said, man, you right. So I gathered myself together, went in there. They're all laughing, having a great time. Oh, this food is good. Everybody's cool. There was one Black person in there who was admin staff, but as I said, there weren't any Black attorneys in that conference room in that building. Very, very gracious introduction, just like this morning. And I said it just like this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so grateful that you've asked me to speak with you today, but I have to admit, you know, the remarks I had prepared don't seem fitting because it's kind of hard to talk about celebrating Black History Month at a place that doesn't have any Black attorneys. You could hear a pin drop. You could hear a mouse fart after that. Miles dropped like, oh, snap. Then I proceeded to slowly walk through, you know, dealing with Blacks in this country. They had these things called the Reconstruction Amendments. They were passed to specifically deal with the African-American demographic. 13th Amendment, abolition of slavery. 14th Amendment, equal protection of laws as it applies to race. 15th Amendment, right to vote should not be abridged based on race. That was specifically for Black people. The Missouri Compromise, 3/5 of a person. The North was like, oh man, y'all can't get all this representation, forget that. Well, yeah, you know, we're gonna count our slaves. Our slaves are gonna boost up our numbers. We can have more power in the Senate, more power in the House. Oh, wait, stop. No. Okay. 3/5. Do the math. Okay. That'll kind of balance it out. 3/5 of a person, not even a whole person. I talked about that. I talked about the lynching postcards. Around that time, that Jordanian pilot had been set on fire, and it was really horrific video that was placed, and everybody was like, wow. You know, when they're showing beheadings and stuff on the internet. I said, well, you know, they were doing that stuff over here. right here in the contiguous United States, setting Black people on fire with women and children watching, making postcards and sending them to their friends. Yeah, that's tough, right? So what do we do? We keep talking about it. We normalize that it's not okay to treat people differently just because they look different. We normalize that we want all kinds of different perspectives in the room. We normalize it. We don't have to have a diversity summit, but diversity is something that we strive because it works, because it adds value. And it shouldn't be something that we have to manufacture this collaboration. It should be organic because you know and understand this is how it works. I think I have just enough time to do my poem, but let me take one more question and then I'm going to do that and then we're going to be out of time. Sheila. Judge Calloway, let me call her out. So Judge Calloway was appointed the same year that I was. And also Judge Ashford, she was on here. Tamara Ashford, also class of 94. She also was appointed to the bench in 2014. We were just like, wow, you know, the 3 Black students in 94, we all get on the bench at the same time. It was a beautiful thing, beautiful thing. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So proud. So proud
of you. And I got to go back to the bench, but you're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. We also have Bridget West on in class of 94, Karen Johnson. We got Luther Wright, class 95, Judge Westbrook, class 95. I'm just looking at names as fast as I can. Of course, Damon Brown. Damon, you were class of 05? Yeah.
One question in the room, if you do have time, Judge Byrdsong.
Okay, please.
Hi, Judge. Thanks so much for being here. As a Black student, it's both inspiring and really encouraging to have you. So thank you for coming. My question is around accountability. So the story that you shared at the beginning about your Facebook post was very vivid, and it seems that the human cost of how we do the law is something that we are taught to accept very early on in our law school careers. I'm curious what for you are the most important qualities that you think make a very well-rounded lawyer? And then in terms of accountability, if you have ideas about what it looks like for law students to be courageous, both in the classroom and with their colleagues within the broader institution.
Very good question. So one, we have to go back to the component of fear. You have to manage that and not let it stifle your ability to grow and to evolve and to just speak up, because sometimes it's just that absence of that voice is what causes the problem. When we can hear it and people can see that there is something we need to address, and that's how we make change. Ethics, be ethical, be honest, be reasonable. I tell many of my mentees, also see my Morehouse people. I see call out Keon and Joshua from Morehouse, young men that I've been working with. 48 Laws of Power. Recommended reading for every single person who wants to go into the legal career, and particularly if you want to litigate and be a trial attorney. 48 Laws of Power. One of those laws: guard your reputation at all costs. Your reputation is important. Your word is bond. And just like when lawyers are asking, what's Judge Byrdsong like? What kind of things does he do? The judges do the same thing about you guys. So if you have your reputation that's out there and it's negative, it's going to follow you. So guard your reputation at all costs, be ethical, and be honest. Okay. Let me do this poem. And this will kind of put it all in perspective in terms of, it's very frustrating. So I wrote this poem in the wake of George Floyd's death, because my blood pressure was getting high and I didn't know what was wrong with me, and I just needed to figure out what was going on. This poem that I put together was a catharsis. It kind of made me feel better because I didn't know what was going on. So here it is. I think it'll be pretty self-evident as you hear it. The name of the poem is Say Their Names. Say Their Names. When the color of my skin causes fear, life is going to be tough, but let's be clear. You have no right to take my Black life just because of that fear. So I'm here to fight. I'm fighting for the right to simply be. See my Blackness, but see my humanity. When I'm guilty of crime just because I'm Black, the odds are against me. The cards are stacked. This hate is tiring and I'm filled with pain. But I'm going to press on now, say their names. In my family's neighborhood, returning from the store, not a national event, I had done this before, but 911 was called. Do you hear me talking? Just a young Black male on the street walking. They tell him not to engage. Just let me be. I'm armed with some Skittles and some Arizona tea. I'm described as suspicious. At least that's what he said. An altercation ensues and I end up dead. It's hard to believe. Now, how does this sound? I get killed. He stays free because he stood his ground. Black Lives Matter was just now starting. My name is Trayvon Martin. I was out celebrating, bringing in the new year. I was riding on the BART. We were full of cheer. When a fight broke out, I was cuffed and detained. I did not have any weapons, so it's a dang shame. I was shot in the back. This is not a rant. I'm Black and my name is Oscar Grant. I was selling some cigs at the corner store trying to make a little money. It wasn't a big score, but the cops had nothing better to do than to mess with me and give me the blues. I didn't have any weapons, but those guys were cold. They grabbed me and placed me in a chokehold. I said I couldn't breathe. I said it 11 times, but they snuffed my life out at the drop of a dime. Wasn't hurting anyone, and it makes you wonder. I'm Black and my name is Eric Garner. I was 12 years old playing in the park. Yes, broad daylight. It wasn't even dark. I was playing with an airsoft gun. It wasn't real. And the police rolled up just shooting to kill. Didn't even get the chance. They didn't even think twice. I'm Black and my name is Tamir Rice. I was pulled over. He said that I didn't signal. I was trying to get out of his way. Real simple. The stop started bad. Then it went to worse. I got pissed. I was harassed and I started to curse. Now, all of this because I didn't turn on my blinker. I got arrested right there, got thrown in the clinker. I would die at the jail, said by my own hand. I'm Black and my name is Sandra Bland. I also got pulled over by a cop. Would you believe that this was my 53rd stop? A broken taillight. Yes, that's a federal crime. I'm being facetious, but pay no mind. I was legally carrying a gun and I told him so. Didn't pull it out and threaten him. You already know. As I'm following orders to show my ID, this cop freaks out and puts 4 bullets in me. How did this happen? This can't be real. I'm Black and my name is Philando Castile. It was broad daylight and I was taking a jog, but I was treated like an animal, like an unleashed dog. You see, Black while running is assumed to be bad. You know how this ends, and it's really sad. It was sad that I had broken into unfinished homes, but no evidence of theft was ever shown. Got chased for 5 minutes by some men in a truck. I would die in the street from 3 shotgun bucks. Without a doubt, these men had intended to harm me. I'm Black and my name is Ahmaud Arbery. They said that I tried to pass a counterfeit $20 bill, but yet I managed to sit still in my car right outside the store. Somebody called the police. What'd they do that for? I was cuffed and detained and placed in their car. I was pulled from the back seat and laid on the street. Then a knee was applied to my neck and back. The whole world saw on video this vicious attack. I said I couldn't breathe. I said, help me, please. Called for my mother, already deceased. Over 8 minutes, I'm trapped under that knee. No one intervened. Even after my plea, I was unarmed, but I was completely destroyed. I'm Black, and my name is George Floyd. I'm asleep in my bed, just minding my own, and these cops come unannounced inside my home. They don't identify themselves, so we think they're crooks. I thought the right to defend was in the law books. So my boyfriend shoots, and then they shoot back. I get hit 8 times, I die, and that's whack. Another situation where the system failed her. She was Black, and her name was Breonna Taylor. There's so many other unknown names to see. We can't count the number of the graves at sea. The Middle Passage left a trail of dead slaves. After slavery was abolished, did we make headway? No. Lynchings were social events like the fair. Postcards were made, wish you could have been there. With women and kids all gathered around celebrating Black death was the talk of the town. This hate is tiring and I'm filled with pain. So I'm asking you to notice. Say the names.